Mzwandile Masina has been re-elected as the ANC's Ekurhuleni Regional Chairperson. He was contesting against his former Treasurer Doctor Xhakaza for the regional chairperson position. Jongizizwe Dlabathi was elected Deputy Chairperson. Jongizizwe was elected as Secretary. Over 313 delegates to the 8th ANC Regional Congress participated in the election of the top 5 officials and additional members of the Regional Executive Committee. At least 103 branches of the 112 have been allowed to participate in the conference. The elections have not been declared as yet until the 5 branches quarantined votes receive outcomes. The outcoming votes make up 19 delegates. For more on this, let's speak now to SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga, who is at the Indaba Hotel in Fourways. So, as we mentioned that this is preliminary, if you could just take us through the process of what will it take to declare the final results, Canny.
Good evening to you, Tsepiso, and the viewers at home. Now, as you may understand, the IEC has just decided to announce the preliminary results. As you may know, there have been some branches in this region that have had several disputes. These disputes were delaying the sitting of this conference. Now, as you may know, the ANC Steering Committee decided that they were going to continue with these processes and include these branches in the processes. However, their votes would be quarantined. Now, we understand that it was 6 branches, which amounts to about 19 votes that were quarantined, and they weren't counted as a part of this process. The electoral agency has stressed that the election has not yet been declared. These preliminary results, until there's a resolution with this, they have not been declared. Now, just to take you through some of these nominations, as I updated you earlier, there was a 50-50 slate represented in each position of the different candidates of this region. This was not to suggest that the support was 50-50, but rather that each slate was represented in each contestation. Now, when we get to the results, Mzwandile Masina won with 163 votes, and Dr. Xhakaza was slightly behind him with 151 votes. Now, it's not to say that these 19 votes that weren't counted were all going to go to Xhakaza. It's still not clear yet where those votes sat. Now, we don't have an understanding as to how this process is going to unfold, or whether these results need to be declared, or whether this outcome of the branches is going to affect these results or not.
So, Canny, let's just take it back a couple of days or even hours ago. What seems to be a perennial problem for the ANC, and we'll speak to a political analyst about this, the issue of credentials. What was the problem then, and how was it resolved?
The credentials began last night at around 9 p.m. So our understanding is that there wasn't much of an issue. The only issue is that the credentials could only be adopted once these branches that were outside the gates of the Indaba Hotel and Conference Center from Friday evening were resolved. Now, the steering committee decided that they're going to give the regional conference a green light, and at that time, I think it was 7 branches that were outside dealing with their outstanding disputes. We understand that 2 were qualified, and there were 5 branches at that time that were going to be allowed to proceed with this process of voting, and then those votes were going to be quarantined. Now the electoral agency has confirmed that it was actually 6 branches whose votes were quarantined. It was after this form of resolution came through that the credentials were adopted in the early hours of the morning. The conference went to a break, and then we understand they were supposed to continue at about 11. However, that saw several delays. They then tried to do a roll call to ensure that the delegates that were inside the venue were the delegates that were meant to be there. After that process, we started to see things flowing accordingly. Then the nominations process went through. That's when you saw that 50-50 slate that I was speaking about. And what appears now with these preliminary results is that every candidate that was aligned to Masina appears to have emerged victorious in these preliminary results.
So, as you say, that it wasn't so much in terms of the conference itself, the numbers, but rather within the branches themselves, where there was issues with who would have been approved to be at the conference. What were the internal problems there that created this delay?
This severe delay in this conference, as you may know, this conference was expected to start on Friday, the 27th of May. We are only dealing with results on Sunday evening, the 29th of May. Most of the issues in this region have stemmed from divisions and factionalism, something that Gauteng ANC Chair David Makura called out yesterday when he gave his keynote address. He said when he arrived here, he thought he had arrived at a war zone because the divisions in this region are so glaring. And it is these divisions that cause the severe delay that we are only receiving the outcome of the preliminary results at this stage. However, it can be attributed to some of these disputes. There are allegations flying around that the conference was allegedly being stolen, that votes were allegedly being manipulated to suit specific outcomes or to align to a specific particular faction. These were some of the squabbles that were delaying this conference. But as the credentials were adopted on Sunday morning, we started to see this conference making gains, and now we're here with these preliminary results. However, it's yet to be determined or clarity to see whether these 19 votes that are quarantined, what will be the outcome and what will they make of those votes, and whether they will affect these results that we've heard just recently.
All right, can you just take us through what happens next now?
As we understand, the top 5 that have just been elected are currently in a meeting. We understand that Mzwandile Masina will be giving some form of an address now. So we're just waiting for him to conclude that meeting. And then we understand that some of the business of the day of the ANC will continue in this conference. But I'll update you accordingly.
All right, we're going to leave it there with my colleague, Canny Maphanga, who is at the Indaba Hotel in Fourways. As you heard her say, the preliminary results for the top 5 at the Ekurhuleni Elective Congress, for the Ekurhuleni Elective Congress, has just been announced. 19 delegates are still to be announced for that final outcome to be announced.